And welcome back to What Do You Believe? Today's guest is Thibaut Laporte and Iman Jordan.
Wow, dude, that's awesome.
One day I'm going to have somebody that can make like real music for me.
Dude, that's incredible.
I mean, but then we'll miss this, you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to build.
I've never heard my name in that way before. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Wait, how do you usually hear your name? Oh, you mean like the way he sang it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, did he mispronounce
he drew
it?
it out, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Sweet. Well, hey, let me start this whole thing off by saying thank you very much, guys, for joining me today to do this podcast. I know it's really hard to get around LA, and we all three had like some negotiating on times, which turned out. And thank you so much for being here.
It's kind of funny because we literally are in the same city, but we're like in such different areas, and it feels like different states.
Oh, it might as well be a different city.
Yeah.
Because we got Santa Monica, we got downtown, and we have North Hollywood.
In the valley.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
But we can.
We are united.
We are united.
Thank
it
you
worked
so
out.
much.
It's one of those rare occasions in LA where synchronicity happens.
Yeah.
We actually had a window.
As almost as if it was meant to be, I would say.
Actually, sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's it. That's
Oh,
all
what
I
I
said.
thought would be funny is that Iman and I always have these discussions at work, and we can't stop talking. I mean, we'll talk about really
for
deep
sure.
in the middle of like absurd like working whatever
Environments.
Yeah, and
people screaming.
and really like deep spiritual or intense like political conversations. And I just thought like on my way here I was like laughing like, oh, that'd be hilarious if we get here and then it's just like like we're just like.
What?
I don't know.
What? Yeah, girls.
Nothing to say.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible for sure. You never know.
I think you guys have enough to talk about. We can make a show out of this.
Hell yeah, we've already talked about so much even just before we started the camera.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just about interactions on Facebook. I mean, one of the things I realized today was the problem with Facebook is like I don't want to give up on it, but what you don't know online that you can get a quick idea about in real life. I hate to put like levels on people, but if someone comes up to you in the street and they're like, "Oh, you know what? Did you know Lincoln was actually an alien?" Or that kind of thing. You already have an idea. You already have an idea of how you're gonna.
Kyle believes that probably already, so it's true.
But
right?
you have an idea of what type of mentality you're dealing with, how you're going to talk to that. Okay, maybe that's an extreme scenario, but it's almost like, is someone more like if it's a child, you already know that it's a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, you're gonna talk to them in a certain way. You have some idea of what they might know or how they see the world. But
don't you think they know that too? I feel like Facebook knows exactly how old you. I mean, they know how old you are.
You
they
tell
know,
them.
Yeah, true. And they know what you like. They know what kind of stuff you're into. So that means that the advertisements, they can speak directly to you as if they know you. They actually know you better than I know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they do,
isn't
for
isn't
sure.
that the weird part?
So what I'm saying
Or
is
yourself.
that's true. I guess what I mean is because that would be convenient if Facebook could tell you, well, this guy's kind of a moron, so don't waste too much time on them.
Yeah.
He
likes Cheez-Its. Yeah.
Because you don't know that, so you're filling all these blanks, and like, so these people, they were saying something true. There was two black gentlemen explaining about oppression and racism in America, and what they're saying was true. But then as I was engaging with them, it's like, first of all, from their perspective, they don't know if I'm an ignorant white man who's just like, ugh, or if I know something, and it's just, and I'm really the point is to say that it's like these conversations can be useful, but with Facebook, it's like it's almost like online dating. You're filling out so many blanks because you don't know if they're really educated or smart, or if they're just and they might just.
So you were having a conversation with two guys about oppression. Was it through on your feed, or how did it come in? How did they?
So one guy posted that America is rape and murder are basically that America is built on rape and murder.
Right.
And it's like, so that kind of hurts because from my perspective, it's like it's almost like you have a construct or a structure. A part of it is beautiful, a part of it is really ugly.
Yeah.
And just saying that the whole construct is ugly because of the ugly part, I feel like isn't necessarily helpful for what they're trying to accomplish.
I totally agree.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a good way to say it. I didn't know that expression, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And especially in their sense, is like, I already agree with what they're saying for the most part. But it's just every time I try to engage, they often end up thinking I'm the enemy, where I'm just like, no, guys, I'm actually just trying, like, if I was a hardcore dude who never had a black friend, whatever, who had no idea about any of this, like the way you're presenting this, it seems really confrontational to where if I was one of those people, I probably wouldn't be receptive. And I would just shut down and not even engage.
Totally.
So I'm not one of those people, but trying to help you, just maybe the way you express it and communicate it, But then even that, they're like, oh, you want me to sugarcoat, 200 years of oppression? It's like, no. I don't want you to. I'm not trying to say you should find something nice to say about racism. Yeah. It's just like this country isn't a complete catastrophe.
Right. It's not. And I think it's like. I think it's easier to influence when you appeal to someone's higher self. When you appeal to like the things they want to be and where they want to go. And I think that comes from a lighter place, like of love and all that kind of stuff.
That comes on from what's inside your head and not what's on covering. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with race. It's just
and that makes what you choose to learn. People more. So first you unite everyone and you say like America's built on a lot of love, a lot of generosity, and a lot of hard work, Yeah. And then you say, but it also has its problems where it was also built upon the backs of slaves or the backs of black folks.
Yeah.
And so it's like coming at it from a different angle instead of it being from. Yeah. But sometimes people get wrapped up in the message. That's the message that they want to deliver, and they don't care how anyone really takes it. They just are speaking it the way they want to speak it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's interesting. Like me just saying that could offend somebody.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, yeah. Even though it's hard to believe it would, but yeah, you're right. Technically, these days
it could, because they'd be like, "Oh man, he's like trying to like."
Especially these days.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
have you seen Kanye on the TMZ?
Oh gosh.
And the Kanye thing is, it just. The way I see it, it's almost like, have you guys ever worked on a video editing program or even a Photoshop kind of thing? So you know how really interesting you have the different views to choose from, or the different perspectives where you can see like the grid form, or even in a video game, you're racing your car and you can see like the wheel perspective, or there's no car, you're just like zooming through the track, or you can see band. So I feel like people are approaching topics from their perspectives, and it ultimately all of it is reality. Right. So when people say, we're all individuals, that's correct. When people say, well, people see me as black and I live in this country and I'm treated as black, well, that's true too. Yeah. They're also individuals. Mm-hmm. So all those layers it's almost like you're switching perspectives to.
Right, because every perspective is leaving something out.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
From the whole.
Yeah. How I see something is from my viewpoint, as it is true from my viewpoint, but I can't see what's over here and over here. And I'm simplifying it, but I feel like that's the case. Like I definitely think that people think that their understanding is the only truth. Yeah. And that's the thing about it. I think there's multiple truths. I do feel like someone can be Christian, someone can be, because if they believe that, they believe that. I also think that someone that hates the world or thinks that like everyone's out to get them probably has a life like that. Probably is always getting dogged out, has always been chased around. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I always feel like somebody's watching me.
What you just said is really dangerous for a lot of people, though, because you bring religion into it. Just to mention whether it's Christian or Islam or anything, a lot of them don't like the idea that someone's truth is just another, or there is some truth to another person's perspective, because when you have a system where it's like, it's my way or the highway, then no other truth can be the truth. Yeah. And I mean that's I think part of the clash we have these days is that ideally any conversation could be had from the standpoint of like, okay, well, I can walk over and see from your perspective. Now let's walk over and see from mine, and discuss. But you get too many people where they're just trying to throw lasso on you and pull you over to their perspective and just keep you there.
True.
Like there's no other,
Yeah.
And
instead of it being like, you can have your perspective and I can have mine and we can still coexist.
yeah.
Like it's all good. Do it all the time. We do it with family all the time. Like people that we can't like get rid of. Like you just like, oh, you're my sister. I don't like you. You know what I mean? But we coexist.
I love my sisters.
No, I don't even have a sister.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I saw this. I heard this report once going to work on. They studied how these people had lived very long, like 100 years, and and they were just trying to study commonalities between them. And one things they found is these people called benign boundaries, where you acknowledge some people needed to be in your life, whether it's from duty or love or both. But you also acknowledge that they're toxic in some way or another, and you can't have too much. So what they call is benign boundaries, where it's like, well, you're a family member or you're an ex-lover or something. I'm going to keep you in my life, but at this distance, so I can live a long, healthy life without you sucking out my chi.
You succubus.
I kind of love that, actually.
Yeah, benign boundaries. Yeah,
You have to. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's part of like survival. Your
Yeah.
instinct.
yeah, and and that's. I mean, it's a. These days, I think a lot of people are frustrated with the lack of community that I realize you can move anywhere in the, because we talk about this at work with Iman a lot. So my dad was French, my mom's Belgian, and I was born and raised in the U.S. But it's like in the past few years, I've realized I'm just a white guy. Like, you live in America, and I mean,
you're not like
right.
European descent. You're
Right.
European American.
Right. I'm a
white
type
dude.
of Euro American, but it's like, it's not even
Yeah.
and if or but. And it's funny because
I totally-
some people will immediately say, well, you're a white guy. And then if I say, well, I'm a white guy, then I'll have usually white people be like, no, well, what does that even mean? Like, white is a construct. And I'm like, I don't, what are you saying? Like, I'm literally checking the box white on the thing. And you're telling me so, long story short, what kind of community can you build that is deeper than just I have my martial arts community, or you have your yoga community, or this community. But the truth is that's really superficial and topical. You move to another city, you lost that. You got to start all over. So I think that, but then you can't really build a community on skin color either. On the other hand, I do think you could build a community again around a common origin. So I like the idea of maybe a Euro-American community, even though when you've been here, your family got here 100 years ago. Are you even Euro anything at all?
Yeah.
At that point, you really are just a skin color sort of, and I don't know. But
well, I think that's changing though, because I think the more things get mixed up and we get mixed in, and culture transcends race at a certain point, I think we're like coming out of the super separated, segregated kind of situation. You know what I mean? We're just
right, yeah.
Because if you go to like Canada and like first generation Canadians that are born there and their parents are all immigrants, they like hang out together like it's they don't even see it. It's like not even like a thing almost. It's kind of weird. I mean, I think in America it's taken longer because of like the slavery thing and because of the civil rights issues and stuff like that. But in segregation, like in Cincinnati where I'm from, it was a white neighborhood and there was a black neighborhood, and you didn't really see much mixing in between that.
Yeah, well, I think that's definitely changing. I signed up for a lot of groups online, and there's still so many haters. It's amazing the amount of people I meet that are openly racist online and deny it. But what makes me laugh about
that
these,
kind of hater, like people who hate.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like your haters.
No,
all your haters out there.
Legitimate haters, like people who hate. And what makes me laugh is like, do we have to watch out for our curse words here? Or
You're fine.
Okay.
You speak your mind.
The people who want like white, only black people to only like black girls to only date black men and white girls to only date white men. All that.
Right.
It's like you don't realize how sex works, do you? Like
right.
you're not gonna. People are gonna fuck.
Exactly.
You know, and so it's just, and then babies happen. So
They're already doing. That's why I look this way. You know, I'm light. I mean, because somebody had their way with some ancestors. They were still getting it on even when they weren't supposed to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
so
it
it's
wasn't.
gonna happen.
And then that's one of the things I was trying to argue on that Facebook earlier is that yes, there was a lot of rape, but there was also a lot of love.
Yeah,
like a lot of
yeah. Preach it, bro. There's a lot of love.
And it's true.
That's what we're here for.
They're seriously like, and you know, no one talk, because that doesn't make it does make some people angry, but no one talks about how much cooperation there was also between First Nations people and settlers. Yeah, there was a whole lot of horrible history, but
Right.
when people say, well, where are Native Americans today? Well, look around you. I mean, a lot of us have Native American blood, First Nation blood, whatever you want. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, that one's a tricky one because
there you go.
That's a tricky one because Native Americans, like the whole culture was just kind of, it was like marginalized and it was like kind of squeezed out. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was actively sabotaged.
It was, yeah.
It was eradicated by smallpox.
For sure.
And
for sure.
So it's kind of hard. Like
I mean ethnically. I mean ethnically that you know, they're not like, so. The thing is, they're having a hard time determining exactly how big the loss of population was, because the estimates between 60 and 100 million people, either way, 95% of which disappeared before Europeans even started settling. So the first explorers came and I accidentally spread disease because they were, you know, they didn't, those weren't the ones that gave the poison blankets, whatever. They just came here to look, you know, explore, but they inadvertently spread disease that
like syphilis and all that kind of
100 years went by between that and then when Europeans actually came here in earnest. And when Europeans first came, everything had changed because, like, you know, it used to be genuine civilizations here with major cities.
Yeah,
they had actually engineered their environment to favor bison and stuff like that, around which they had their, you know, their whole culture. But when Europeans came back, it was like basically there.
You mean came back? You mean came in droves? Like
well, at first it wasn't in droves, but
no, I'm saying when they came. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
You're saying
the
initial
first pilgrims and all that.
Yeah.
You know, to actually live here, they found traces of previous civilizations. I mean, the way I see it, it's almost like basically there was an apocalypse. All these major cities, they were, you know, the people died, they were evacuated, and then the ones that survived.
You mean like? Well, I'm trying to figure out what year you're talking about. So you're saying when the initial settlers came, you're saying before the initial settlers came, there was something that had happened.
Yeah,
a main event.
They know this geologically.
Right.
So it's actually, that was because I studied this from, it was something that was saying like 10 facts about America that you know are complete, like very very little spoken of or something like that. I forget, but it really does change your perspective because basically they know that there was a lot of people on the American continent. So whether it's 60 million or 100 million, even if they got it wrong and it was like 20, you know, 40 million, it's still a lot of people, especially by that age standard. I mean, back then, you know, Europe had very few people by comparison. So everyone thinks that the white man came here and killed everyone, and that's partly true. But they didn't kill 90. They didn't kill. So suppose it was 100 million, they did not kill 95 million people. That's impossible. They didn't, even with all their guns, even if they had tanks, they would have been outnumbered to where there's no way they could bring that much army to face 60 million or 100 million people. So the only reason this country exists the way it does is because those first explorers accidentally gave disease that spread like wildfire. And by the time 100 years later, they can see, they know this because there was actually
so I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that the initial settlers came, gave disease.
Explorers. They weren't even here to settle. They were
just explorers.
Yeah.
And that's what killed most of most of Native Americans.
That's what crippled any civilization powerful enough to withstand colonization.
So yeah, it's disease. Yeah. Okay. So yes.
Yeah, and so when the Europeans came, but I think that does change a lot of history because a lot of people think that they were intentionally all killed, and it does make a difference that, first of all, that's not what happened, but also that's not even possible. Like there's no way that even with their technologically advanced weapons, that Europe would have been able to take over a continent of 60 million people. That's just not possible.
So do you think? So do you think that? Do you think that it's less bad? I guess is the right word. Do you think it's less bad if it was they killed through force or harm or war or whatever it is, through slavery or whatever? Is it worse that most of them died from disease before the rest of them were killed by?
I think it's both. It's both less bad and less good. A lot of people, because a lot of racists actually typically take some pride in thinking that the white man just came here and conquered it, and it's like, no, there are so many stories of pilgrims and settlers coming across empty cities that had been, like, you could tell that there had been agriculture there. You could tell there had been a city and a civilization, but the people were long gone.
I don't know.
So that's not nearly as impressive
but have you
as conquering a place. So no one wants that history, because suddenly it's like, well, you just basically occupied empty space, and that's not nearly as romanticized, as like saying, well, we actually fought the Indians.
In North Carolina, there's a place called the Lost Colony where they settled an area, and then when they came back, like, people were just gone.
Yeah.
It's just, and they had one word written on a tree. It was like Croatan or Croatunch or something.
Oh, I know that one.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a lot of chapters in history like that too.
But I want to say about
the
Mexico. I went to Mexico and we went to I went through all the museums, and I mean, some of it's amazing, like the history of the natives that lived in that part of the world were like pretty advanced. I mean, they're like had civilizations and built.
Oh yeah.
They had trade, very very complex kind of systems, and so but the story that I kind of saw was more so, and I don't know the numbers, because numbers and stuff, but was more so that it was through conquest and conquering, like that those civilizations were they were demolished, and so and in the end, I mean, there were of course wars before that, and it switched hands. It's always been that kind of turmoil, but that the reason why they don't exist at all now is because of
no. Okay, so absolutely
for sure, right? So I mean,
no. What I'm saying is, okay, and what happened to the Cherokee and the Choctaw and Sioux, all that that's not the same history as the Inca and the Mayans, obviously, but what I mean is that the white man would never have been able to take over this continent or occupy it if the vast majority of its native population hadn't already basically died out by the time they came here to settle. Right. And so when the Spaniards, they were really brutal in Latin America too. But the fact that so many people, those civilizations were already crumpling under the weight of disease and all that, was helping them enormously to overtake. Basically, it was almost like they were already at the edge of the cliff and they're pushing them. They're like, they saw an opportunity,
right?
Like a hungry jackal sees like a wounded animal.
So, but it was still kind of like, you made it sound worse now, because now you're saying that they pretty much, it's like a wounded animal. So they were like, cool, yeah. I see the weakness.
Oh, for sure.
So, but how does that support the point of the whole idea of like racists want to make it seem like, the white man came and took it over,
well,
and blah, blah, blah.
It's very...
How is that? You kind of are saying that he did.
But there was a lot of Spanish that did it too. Like, I mean, it's more than just Europeans,
Well, Spanish or Europeans in this case.
Well, I mean, but they're definitely not white,
I mean, they're white-ish. Have you seen that show? Black-ish?
You're into the whole separation of white by like, no, you know what? Whether you're Mediterranean or Nordic, you're fucking white. I'm sorry. It's like, it's just.
Have you seen The West by Ken Burns?
No.
It used to be on Netflix, and I think they took it off. But it talks about the history of the West and like where we live today, and the.
I want to see that.
And how, dude, it is so good.
Really?
It is so fucking good. But they talk about when the first explorers got here and they saw the Indians, like the Indians would, or the Native Americans, whatever you want to freaking call them, they would be like, very nice. And they would walk up when they had nothing but necklaces on. And the people wearing clothes would be in such awe. They'd be like, oh my God, they're not ashamed that they're naked.
Yeah.
And because their idea of perception of being naked and being ashamed is not part of their culture.
Yeah.
Which was like,
Yeah. No,
awesome.
Which is really kind of interesting too, because it makes you think about like what we're like robots. Like we're born into this world, and then we're downloaded all of this information from parents, country, society about how we're supposed to act. And so these are all these stories that we're taught to believe as fact, and you have to be that way.
Yeah.
The idea of clothes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like as a societal thing, like they grew up and it was like, nah, we're not supposed to wear clothes. What are you doing with that on? That's weird, dude. Why are you? You know what I mean? Unless they're
that's
cold
one
or
of the things
something.
that most drives me crazy about.
Nude
Because
beaches?
I'm one of those people that are Europeans aren't all bad. I mean it's like have you ever seen Monty Python and The Life of Brian?
No.
It's so there's these like people in Jerusalem, and they're like they really hate the Romans, and they're like the anti-Roman rebels, whatever. And then one guy's like, because all the Romans, everything they've done is bad, and one guy's like, yeah, well, the aqueduct is pretty good. And they're like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, aqueduct is good. And then I actually like all the roads they built. Yeah, the roads are pretty good. And
what about the arches? What about the arches?
It goes on like that. It's like, so, Europeans aren't all like what they brought isn't always all bad. They brought some medicine, sometimes stuff like that. But one of the things that drives me crazy that they brought that I wish would have gone the other way around is, when they went to Africa, when they went anywhere, it was like, oh, these women are bare breast, like we should cover them and all this, and like this idea that you should be ashamed of your body, that I hate to say it, but that's the church that was doing that.
Oh, their breasts.
And a lot
we
of
should also what? Rape them.
Oh God!
Let's go back to it. Let's go back to it.
Go with that
No, I'm serious. When you said
the priests,
but no, you said the naked.
No,
you're talking about the naked women and naked boobs and all that kind of stuff, Africa and all that kind of stuff. And you're saying there were good things they brought, and there were some bad things like cover up your naked breast, but also they also were enslaving them. There were also other. So it's kind of a hard thing for me to say. It's hard. It's hard for me to have the benefit talk when it comes to Africa.
No, right.
You know what I mean? It just sounds like, well, we brought aqueducts and roads to Africa.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't think you're. Well, actually, another thing that this gets to me a lot, because no white person was able to go inside continental Africa to take slaves. They came to the edges of the coast.
Yeah,
and the destruction they engineered ends up being the same, but Africans were satisfying the demand of the Europeans by increasing warfare and a lot of punishments that used to be a tap on the wrist or like in jail, whatever they had, became every punishment became slavery because slaves were so lucrative. So they turned tribes against tribes. Because it became so profitable. So, but the white people never went inside out. Like they couldn't. Again,
so they created the demand and the turmoil.
Right. So
with
the destruction is still the same, and they even say that
But what's the point in that in the art? Just saying with how you just said it there. Like I feel like there's a point, and you were trying to make in that there were also Africans that were a part of the system as well.
They were.
It is a big deal.
No,
it is a big deal.
But it is the truth.
If the honestly, I'm gonna bring Wakanda into it. Let's bring the Black Panther.
God, don't go there.
But no, the movie does something brilliant, which is like this dynamic between the Black American and the African, where this is an African nation that never helped its kin because they're black. They didn't see they're Wakandans, and they stayed isolated thousands of years and let everything bad that happened happen because they didn't see any unification that by skin color. So it is important that all the Africans that are descendant of slaves in America were sold by Africans to Europeans or Arabs.
But here's the thing. But here's the thing, though.
A lot of Arabs.
But a lot of Arabs.
A lot of Arabs.
Let me.
Really.
But the thing is, I understand what you're saying with that, but there also has to be something that trips the switch. And that's all I'm saying. I'm saying there has to be something that destabilizes the environment. And you can destabilize anything. You can destabilize families. You can destabilize money. And that's what I'm saying.
Money's destabilizing.
Also money. But my thing is that I think that if we get into the specifics of did white Europeans, are they the ones who got all of the slaves out of Africa, like, and by their hands? Was it only their hands only? No, it wasn't. For surely it wasn't. But did they destabilize places, which is the whole point of colonization, was just it destabilized regions so much that it turned it upside down. You had it, that's what led to some of the things in Rwanda, where we had light-skinned blacks, Africans turned against dark-skinned Africans. It's like, it's an idea, and it's an infectious one, and that's the part that's more deadly. I don't necessarily know if it's more, black hands did take other slaves out of Africa, or at least take them to the coast. Well, but what I'm saying is the worst part of it is the infectious ideas, and also the fact that you destabilize what was working for that region. Maybe I think so. Maybe. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I do think it makes a difference, because it's like, if in the end, what I want, what I want to avoid is this scenario where the white man is evil, where everyone else was just a victim. Because if there wasn't a powerful black king that was super greedy and wanted guns and was willing to enslave his neighbors to get those, then we, this situation wouldn't happen. So the greed and the taking advantage of weakness and the destabilization, every race was doing that, and everyone was guilty of that. It's like what drives
even
me,
Africans. There was one of the richest kings ever was Mansa, and he was so rich that when he traveled, he used to bankrupt people or areas, because he would flood the area with so much gold.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you watch Game of Thrones, and it's like it's a metaphor for something that is real, like that. Like,
I mean, it's human nature. I think it's like in every human.
Yeah. So in this, I was telling you about that book, the Strange Death of Europe, Immigration, Identity, Islam, by Douglas Murray, which is making a lot of waves in Europe, a lot of it was interesting for me, like information I didn't know, some that I did know, some but then he has a chapter on white guilt, which I was like, oh shit, is this where I completely like jump off the, like, I'm going to disagree with him? And he did bring up some points that it's like there. So after the enslavement of Africans by or by Europeans is absolutely horrible. Is it the only absolutely horrible chapter in human history? No, there's like the Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun, what the Japanese did to the Chinese, what the Chinese did to the Japanese, like
the
every
Armenian genocide.
Yeah, the Armenian, which they still deny.
Yeah, right.
And like, but it's like somehow it's like only white people right now are asked to foot the bill for their crimes, which is just I understand that a lot needs to happen to fix a lot, but no one else in the world, like there's no Arab guilt where like their slave trade went on for 800 years or more longer.
Well, here's the thing. What
there's
happens
slaves
is,
in the world today, like Qatar and shit like that, in the Middle East.
I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where this is where, yes, everyone's done evil. Every race has done evil. Every society. But there is something about scale. It's the scale of the atrocities.
Well, you don't want to play with scale, because that's what, if you go with scale, the Arab slave trade was a lot worse.
What I'm saying though, if you just think about it, like, what has the Western culture, how has the Western culture impacted the world, right? And you think about colonialization. Is that how you say it? Colonization, colonialization?
Well, it depends what you're talking about.
Colonialization, yes. That's what I want to say. That is Africa. That's destabilizing Asia. That's changed Australia, Aborigines. That's changed even Southeast Asia, Polynesia. Like, we're talking about, that's destabilized the Middle East. Hold on, let's go there. You're talking about Middle East.
Yeah.
Like, so there is something about that. South America, North America, that's the entire world, dude. Like, so yeah, you're talking about battles. In comparison, you're talking about small battles. You're talking about regional, I don't know, things that probably were horrible and atrocious, but they still were not the scale of the entire world. But here's the thing. I want to say this real quick. But I'm not saying that because Europeans were better at it, that they should get, more, I don't know, flack for it, but maybe so. I don't know.
So it's possible that Europeans, I don't think they were better at it so much as they were doing. The way I see it, the first civilizations were African. Then it was Arab, then it was Asian, and it's like white people were the last in the game, but they were also in the game when the technology was the best. So civilizations come and go. So you have an ebb and flow. So Africa was really, there's the history of like people go to Africa to get educated back in the day. I mean, then I don't know. That's one of the things that interests me is how civilizations, with the whole thing going on with Trump right now and people almost not questioning science, but like denying science, denying fact. Is that the mark of the end of an enlightened civilization? I don't know, but so it seems to me like the white people were just the last to do all this stuff, and so it looks bad because they're the last. It's almost like there's a body, everyone comes in, stabs the body, the white guy comes last, he stabs it, and then the police walk in and like, oh shit. So yeah, we
no, it's not the body. But bodies. It's more. Right. It's like it's not like it's like a black guy stabs a body and then it's like then there's like a massacre.
Like the history of
the whole world.
The history of America before white people showed up is just blood and guts. The history of Africa before white people showed up is just blood and guts.
Blood and guts?
Well, then if you're gonna say is it just, then you have to do the same thing with Europe. That's what I mean is you can't have this narrative that fuck, I had a point to make. I forgot. I just I don't think it's realistic to also to say like the West, because the way I see it, I read this really interesting article once where he argued like what people consider white culture or Western culture or whatever has nothing to do at all with originally white cultures, which is to say that there was white people living in Europe.
It's kind of like Persia.
So originally they were pagan, so they would have been very similar to African or Native American, whatever. They had their native like dances, their native wardrobe, their native dialects, all that stuff.
How far are you going back? You're going back before
Christianity. So one of the first like homogenization things that happened in Europe was Christianity, which I see as an invasive thing that all these traditions they had, because the thing is they did that to the Native American. After when they came, they would take the Native Americans from their parents, put them in a Catholic school so that they could wipe out that culture and that language. They did it in Africa, but that wasn't originally like the Vikings would never go anywhere and take the children to educate them, and people before that level of religion, before Islam and Christianity, that type of mentality wasn't really. They didn't intentionally execute a cultural genocide. And the other thing is, so that happened to the European before it happened to anyone else, and you could argue Muslims as well.
It happened to the European before it happened to anyone else.
Yes, the disappearance of their culture and their traditions and all that, because some people think it was a good thing that Europe was sort of homogenized under the same like one God, but I see it as like Germans used to have much more richness to their cultures and identities before the church just homogenized everything. And the French and the Irish and all that, there was much more richness. Now it's just sort of like, what's left. Anyway, that's the one thing.
Yeah.
The second thing, and this is more important, what happened is industrialization and modernization. And that's the two things that people think jeans and Coca-Cola are white culture. Modernization could have happened in Africa. It could have happened in Arabia. It could have happened in China. That's the big destroyer of identity and culture. Where like first of all, people are just busy at work. They're busy at the factory. They don't have time for community or traditions anymore.
Don't you think that's a European thing?
No, I think.
You don't think that working? You don't think that long hours working is a European?
Have you seen Asia?
Yeah, Asia's worse.
Asia's pretty bad.
I met this. Dude, I just worked this shift with a guy from Japan, and he was born and raised in Japan. He's here, going to college here. I'm like, dude, so why are you going to college here?
Mm-hmm.
And like Japan's kicking ass nowadays, right? He's like, oh, because usually to work your way up, like the corporate ladder, you have to work longer hours at lesser pay. So like here, like to when you go up the corporate ladder, you get paid more. He's like, there, you actually have to get paid less to like a certain amount, and then like once you get to the very tip top, very tip.
Yeah, I've
like,
heard that about that.
He's
about
like, but
Japan.
there's way more room for getting a fair pay.
Yeah.
And the time that you use
But
to get there.
you work to exhaustion pretty much.
Yeah, he's like you're talking about like 16-hour days every day.
I lived in Japan. It was getting 2 days off per week was like a big deal. No, so I'm gonna actually have to go soon, but time flies when you're having an interesting conversation.
How much time you got?
We should start wrapping up like 5 minutes.
Okay.
All right, let's do 5 minutes on live. What we got you here?
Wow, that went fast.
Yeah, seriously, that went super fast.
That did go fast. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh my god, have another one."
See, that was fun, right?
Yeah.
That was. I feel like we just that was an introduction.
We didn't even get started, right?
Yeah.
Tebow, give me Laporte.
Yeah.
Got it. All right, here we go.
Wait, is he in there?
Yeah, you have to come scoot over here just a little bit. Bring the microphone with you. All right, and welcome back to What Do You Believe? Today I got Tebow Laporte.
Hello.
And I got a mind Jordan.
What's up?
And we just had a really fast conversation. That hour just flew by.
It really did.
Man,
Yeah.
it was crazy.
We have one of those infinity stones of time or something, because that was like 1 hour worth of conversation that happened in like 20
Where can I get
minutes.
this infinity
Yeah.
stone from?
Time flies when you're having fun. That without a doubt. Was a situation for that. So, quick recap. We talked a lot about.
What did we talk about?
Man, we talked about everything.
We talked about the history of the world. Actually, it was a lot of history lessons. We talked a lot about cultures in the world and the histories of those cultures.
Mm-hmm. Race, of course.
Yep, and we talked about slavery.
Yeah.
How
We talked about that.
the
Hey
truth
Ray,
of
how you
history.
doing? Ray and Joseph and Teresa, hey, how you doing?
What's
Welcome to the
up,
show. Welcome to What Do You
guys?
Believe. And any of you people from North Carolina that might show up, make sure you stop by Moore's Old Time Barbecue. Get your barbecue sandwich.
It's like I want to let you do that, because if we go through the topic, it's like white guilt.
Yeah, white guilt.
White people aren't completely evil. Massacres,
Wait,
genocide, all this stuff.
Yeah.
He's giving a little.
That's what I mean.
The way he's saying it is makes
it sounds bad. But
Yeah.
no. If you
Yeah.
actually listen to what we're saying, we had a really good conversation.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And me and
presenting-
him, we dressed the part. We dressed in the same color, just for you guys.
It was super deep. We always deep ones. Have some
Super deep.
ones. Yeah, and these guys are awesome gentlemen that I work with. Tebow, get us a little background of who you are and what you do.
I am an actor in LA, born and raised in Washington, D.C., French dad, Belgian mom, martial artist. That's my big thing, martial arts. And you know what? I the other day I looked up my Wu-Tang name on an app.
Don't bring that up.
It said intellectual conqueror.
That was so good. I was like,
I like that a lot. I like talking about things, and I like learning how to talk about things in this day and age where people are so, stuck on one side, and you got to learn how to approach topics and make and go forward, because otherwise, everyone's just going around in circles. So
Yep.
Yeah, you definitely. If you haven't looked up your Wu-Tang clan name, go to wutangclan.net, and it says name generator. You just click on that, and you fill in your name. I think mine was Unlucky Magician.
Really?
Yeah. I was working an event with a coworker, and I was like, "Hey man, you should put your name in here, man. You should put your name in here." He's like, "Man, I don't need Wu-Tang Clan to tell me my name." I was like, all right, I'll do it for you. And then we looked up his name, and I was like, hey man, this is your Wu-Tang name, and it was Fearless Artist. And he was like, all right, I'll take that.
That's hilarious.
That sucks, man. Mine is the worst. Mine is Tough Tiger Fist.
Tough Tiger.
That's the worst name ever.
That's like a Japanese character or something like
Is
Tough
it?
Tiger Fist.
I think it's.
I keep thinking about.
It's only one. It's 2/3 good. Because Tiger Fist is awesome, hands down. Tough in front of that has no place being there.
Because if you're tough, you wouldn't say it, right?
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I gotta go, but
oh yeah,
okay, we gotta go.
Okay, we gotta roll out. Thank you so much for joining in, Chris Mossberg. Hey, good to see you, buddy.
Until next time, I hope.
Until next time, y'all take it easy.